We're gonna go ahead and get started. It's been a great program the past day. Have a very good program this morning. Another good program on regulatory issues with the MSCI at 10:30. So welcome to AISI's 119th General Meeting and to the AISI's Chairman's Address and Recognition Breakfast. We're especially pleased to have leaders with us this morning from customer and allied professional organizations. Haven't had a chance yet to recognize Ron Watkins from CSPA. Ron is here. Also, Wayne Geyer from the Steel Tank Institute and Steel Plate Fabricators Association. Wayne? Hey, Wayne. Good to see you. I'd also like to thank our associate member sponsors for the reception last night. It was a great event. Yesterday, we look forward to working with you and moving forward on our policy objectives. We appreciate your support. And thanks for the reception. Let's have a round of applause for the associates. It's my pleasure to invite Dan D'Amico for his annual Chairman's Address. The President and CEO of Nucor, who's once again stepping into the breach. Dan, the podium's yours.
The Chairman's Address and Recognition Ceremony is an opportunity each year to recognize deserving individuals for their service to the Institute and to our industry. I'm pleased as your chairman to have the chance to do that again. In all seriousness, I am. I'd like to take a few moments to share my thoughts with you on the state of the industry, on the path forward in the coming months. If I get my fingers to work. And on both the opportunities and the challenges in front of us. Our top priority, as always in our organizations, is safety, both for our workforce and throughout our facilities, and for those who use our products every day in their lives, whether it be bridges, roads, equipment, you name it. Our company has made great strides over the past decade in decreasing the number and frequency of workplace incidents. And we continue to work through AISI to share information and best practices, not only here, but with industry groups around the world. There is no issue more important than the safety of our workforce. None. Let me turn now to the economy, one of my more favorite subjects the last few years. After years of speaking out on the Hill, to the media, at town hall meetings, about the critical importance of manufacturing to America's economy, it's ironic that in the midst of the worst recession since the Great Depression, economists are finally getting it. They are finally getting it. You heard a number of people yesterday talk about the importance of manufacturing and the opportunity for a resurgent manufacturing sector for a number of reasons. They are actually now acknowledging that manufacturing is leading the nation's economic recovery. You know, that group that they said we really didn't need anymore? You know, they said we could become a service-oriented economy, one where we could take mortgages, cut the piece of paper in half, have 2 envelopes, sell for twice as much, you know, that Ponzi scheme. And in the process, it has also dawned on them that American manufacturing is fundamental to having a strong economy. As we know, the steel industry is pivotal to all of manufacturing. We are fortunate enough to be working with the greatest material ever known to man, and though I never say never, in all likelihood, the greatest material that will ever be known to man. That's one of the reasons the steel industry is such a dynamic place to be. So what do we need to do to lead this economy and this economic recovery? In order to strengthen our economy and competitiveness, we need a healthy and growing manufacturing sector. Since 1998, our nation lost over 6 million manufacturing jobs. An estimated 2.4 million of those were lost specifically due to the gaping trade deficit with our trading partners, in particular China. Jobs will be restored to the extent that we invest in our country and rebuild our manufacturing sector. And I've said before, America must be a nation that innovates, makes, and builds things. Here are the 3 steps that our nation must take to make job creation our #1 priority. But before I go into those 3 steps, I want to deal with an issue that economists and many talking heads, so-called experts on this issue, continue to come back and talk about. Well, we lost those jobs not because of manufacturing going away, or because of unfair, illegal trading practices, or because we had our heads up our butt when it came to setting priorities and what should drive our economy and what shouldn't. It was because of productivity gains. All those jobs went because of productivity. This is the sad statement when people make that comment. Of course we're more productive. Of course jobs have gone away because we've been more productive. But here's the key to productivity. As you become more productive, what does it allow you to do? To be more competitive under normal circumstances in an economy, to be more competitive, which means you get the chance to grow at the expense of your competition. And for God's sakes, you certainly get the opportunity to grow into a growing global economy because you've earned it, because your cost structure is better. At least in the way we operate our plants, not necessarily in the way that our government sets up the playing field for us to be globally competitive. It's not okay to make the excuse, oh, we lost those jobs because of productivity. If we were so damn productive and productivity was working to our favor, then manufacturing would not be 9.9, 10, 11% of GDP. It'd be north of 20% of GDP. Just like it is in Germany, Japan, China, over 30%. It's one of those things that reminds me of the Abbott and Costello, for those of you old enough to remember them, routine when they're in the jail and Costello mentions Niagara Falls, and Abbott goes, slowly I turn, step by step. It's one of those things that just sets him off in motion to want to destroy something and kill somebody. Don't put that in the press, please. All right. It's one of those pet peeves you have, because it's so much garbage. It's so much garbage. We should be able to grow and be more competitive globally and bring more jobs here and have manufacturing be a larger percentage of our GDP, or at least a stable percentage of our GDP. But that's how screwed up and how lost in the forest we got with this whole idea of being service-oriented and all those jobs can go away. I guess the rest of the world is pretty damn dumb to be building their manufacturing sectors and adding all those jobs and creating all that massive economic growth. I mean, we're smarter than them, right? So, what are some of the things that we can do? Some of the highest priority things in our mind that we need to do to create jobs, to provide the competitive situation we need to be globally competitive from the U.S. and from NAFTA around the world? We need in the United States to achieve an American independence with respect to energy by developing all of our energy resources, traditional, renewable, you name it. And we need to recognize that the renewable mantra is way behind the technology to make it a reality. And between the time that it can become a reality to be a low-cost producer of competitive power, between that time and today, we need to make sure that we don't get stupid about carbon-based energy forms. We can't live without them. It's a complete waste of time for people to be talking about this in the press in Washington. Complete waste of time. Let's use the cleanest forms of carbon-based energy we can. Let's grow our nuclear, let's grow our natural gas. We have a game-changing technology event taking place in the world of energy and natural gas. Let's not go out of our way to find ways to shut it down. Let's go and find ways to make it work for us in the right ways. Let's not go out to kill it. Let's go out to nurture it and have it be produced in a way that isn't good for everybody in the equation. AISI believes that Congress should craft a comprehensive and market-driven energy policy built around promoting greater development of domestic energy sources, incentives for energy efficiency and improvements, and additional support for industry efforts to develop breakthrough technologies. Those need to include natural gas, domestic oil, clean coal resources, and nuclear power. And we need to make all these resources of energy part of the nation's energy strategy moving forward. In particular, as I mentioned, natural gas. It is a strategic resource that can help drive a massive economic recovery. We've got to have people who are sensitive to it, open to it, and supportive of it. Unfortunately, those people have to be in our governments, both in the state and the federal level. The realization of the extent of our recoverable domestic shale gas resources is the most important U.S. energy development in our lifetimes. Environmental regulations on shale gas drilling should maximize the potential benefit while balancing the impact on the environment. We also need to recognize that if we want our nation to experience economic growth, we must anticipate an accompanying increase in energy use. You just can't detach the two. We need to plan for that expectation. Step 2, restore America's manufacturing through healthy, balanced global trade. It was interesting listening to the economist Paulson when he was talking about how we've been basically subsidizing the world's development for the last 30 years with our trade deficit. First time I've ever heard anybody actually put it in those terms before. It's very appropriate because that's exactly what we've been doing. And the other point I liked about what he had to say, and now it's time for us to reap the rewards of those investments that we've made in the developing countries. It's time for us to participate in that growth that we fostered through the massive accumulation of debt to help us get us out of this mess. And that's only going to happen through a strong, revitalized manufacturing sector. As a member of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Manufacturing Council, our goal is to bring manufacturing back to over 20% of GDP. And it can be done. And with the right support and facilitation of our government, and everybody working together at the federal and state level and through industry, we can make it happen, and we can make it happen in our lifetime. Why? Because the world is growing and developing at a pace that will allow for that as long as we get to the point of playing seriously in this game of international competition. We need to enforce trade policies that will truly level the international playing field for all manufacturers, including keeping our trade laws strong and strictly enforced. Reform of currency policy is an important part of achieving healthy, balanced global trade. We are all painfully aware that China maintains as much as a 40% unfair advantage for its manufacturers by artificially undervaluing their currency, and that's just one of an arsenal of subsidies that allow them to produce products of all type, not just steel, but steel-containing products, and sell them around the world and basically practice predatory mercantilistic trading practices. We cannot keep giving China a free pass on this critical issue. It's time for us to say there's been enough damage done here. We're not going to listen to you talk about how much potential damage it could do in China. It's time that Congress directly addresses these protectionist and trade-distorting currency practices and make China play by the rules. Third, we need to rebuild America by investing in a globally competitive infrastructure for the 21st century. This will require a long-term strategy that makes the nation more efficient and reduces our carbon footprint while energizing commerce and creating jobs. This will be a long-term strategy. You have to make an investment in the future of this country that will pay back a decade from now, 2 decades from now, just like our leaders did back in the 50s. That have been paying dividends for us ever since. Not just roads and bridges and ports, but our air traffic control systems, our overall transportation systems. The Congress needs to take overdue action and pass legislation to upgrade America's infrastructure, which will heighten the ability to conduct commerce efficiently throughout the nation while adding to high-value jobs, putting people back to work where the jobs have been lost. the one sector of this economy that's woefully lagging, and in some cases still going down, is the construction sector, construction of all types. We're not going to put people back to work at the levels we need until we address that issue. Every $1 billion the federal government commits to roads, bridges, and other infrastructure helps to support some 35,000 jobs. Now, you add to that a drive for energy independence, and the jobs will start flowing in numbers probably faster than we're going to be able to fill, but they will get filled. People will get trained. If we can pull housewives out of their homes and put them on the lines making airplanes and tanks in fairly short order, we can do the same thing in our population today. Create the job, create the incentive, people will come, and people will do what they have to do, and they're plenty smart to do it, despite all the ranting about some of the serious weaknesses we have in our educational system. With unemployment and underemployment hitting 16% or more, this investment is exactly what our nation needs. As we look at the potential for recovery this year and beyond, these issues are now more important than ever, which leads to the final point I want to leave you with, and maybe the most important one to get us to where we need to be. We have to get engaged. For years, you've heard this. For years, many of you have joined in. And even if everybody in this room is truly engaged today, there are people 1 and 2 levels away from you that aren't, that need to be, whether they be family members, neighbors, community leaders, co-workers, employees, politicians, you name it. Whether you believe it or not, your very livelihoods are at risk here. If you look back the last 20 years, you can see the road strewn with people like us who are no longer here, and mostly for the reasons that we've talked about. By being engaged in the political process, we can strengthen our economic competitiveness in our country. And I'm telling you, they're paying attention in Washington because they have to. They tried every other dumb, stupid thing, and it hasn't worked. If nothing else, by process of elimination, they understand how important high value-added manufacturing jobs are to a strong economy and to the middle class. And it's the middle class that's going to put people in office or kick them out of office. There's no room here for wallflowers. Each one of us needs to take responsibility as part of this vital industry to make our voice heard on Capitol Hill, to our members' district offices, and before the regulatory agencies. Unrelenting pressure. Doing it once is not enough. Doing it once a week, you might be getting there. And when those in government do a good job, we should make note of it and take note of it and let them know that. Earlier this year, AISI publicly praised the U.S. Department of Commerce for its preliminary determination that Chinese producers are circumventing an anti-dumping order on play products by using one of the oldest tricks in the book, slightly modifying the chemistry and doping it with boron, which gives it no properties whatsoever, but makes it classified as an alloy product. And there's actually companies over there, trading companies, that are advertising, this is how you get around it. And that's how far they've gone with their arrogance. And when EPA listened to our concerns that their new regulations on industrial boilers would actually reduce our energy efficiency, we recognized their efforts to improve the regulation. Despite some of the challenges I've mentioned, I'd like to propose here that the greatest barrier to success lies not with the Congress, not with the Chinese, and not with the regulatory agencies. Complacency is the most surefire way to lag behind and lose sight of the dream. As human beings, we can rise to great occasions, and we can also rise to great levels of complacency. As Thomas Jefferson once put it, all tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience, to remain silent. So whether you like the Tea Party or not, God bless them. Whether you like Donald Trump or not, God bless them, because they're doing anything but being silent. Remaining silent, my friends, cannot be an option for us, and it will not be an option for the leaders of our industry. We can sit and commiserate about the challenges ahead, or we can resolve to work together with renewed commitment. As part of this renewed commitment, I want to recognize the supplier community for a new step that they have taken, which is the imminent relaunch of the American Steel Coalition. Steve? This coalition has had an extremely important role during the Steel 2001 campaign in mobilizing our industry's grassroots power. Today, the American Steel Coalition is back in action. We talked about this yesterday at our associates meeting. More than ever, they are dedicated to supporting the long-term sustainability of our business. It makes good business sense for them, and they understand how important it is for our country. In a few minutes, we'll be recognizing the leadership team that has stepped forward as members of the Coalition Founders Circle. You'll be learning or hearing a lot more about the American Steel Coalition this year as their numbers and intensity grow. At this time, we're going to move along to a different part of the program. I'm pleased to turn to the awards portion of this morning's program. Footnote, Gibson enters stage to assist with award ceremony. President. Nice to see you up here. We have a group, the American Steel Coalition, that was vital several years back to the success of our industry lobbying efforts leading up to the President's decision to initiate the Section 201 steel tariffs. AISI represents steel industry suppliers, customers, and concerned citizens across the country who recognize that a strong, independent steel industry is vital to our nation's prosperity and national security, and to a healthy economy. The American Steel Coalition is an organization dedicated to ensuring a robust U.S. steel industry through free and fair global trade, rules-based and enforced global trade practices. We are here today to announce the reinvigoration of this coalition. 9 individuals have pledged to be part of the AISI's Founders Circle. I will call the names of all 9 founding members, and those present, please come forward. We have a Founders Circle pin we'd like to present you with. First on the list is James Boughton. Did I pronounce that right? Not here. Okay. Charles Chuck Connors, the rifleman. Not here. Kevin Fenton, Graphtech. Getting off to a shaky start here. Steve Harker, Acre Construction.
Somebody's here to get the pen. Come on up, folks.
Tom. Thank you. We're going to have you come out every time now to pick a pin up for everybody else. George Koenig, Barry Metals. Robert Kubal. William Rakoff. Hey, Bill.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Michael Romano, I know you're here. It's hard to miss you, Michael. Oh, and my favorite of all time. Shoeless Joe Turner. Oh, he's got his shoes on today.
I got my shoes on. Thank you very much. Very nice.
Joe is a senior advisor to Shaw, Suncoke Energy, and Primary Energy, and one persistent son of a gun. We can all learn from Joe. I want to thank you all very much. I'm sorry the other folks weren't here to receive their pins. I know they'll get them, and I really appreciate their leadership, and I know you'll take that message back to them for me, Steve. With your support and leadership, we will succeed more than we have, and we've come a long way. We look forward to great things ahead for these leaders and from the American Steel Coalition. Okay, we also have here this morning to honor our committee leaders and others who have made a significant contribution to North American steel industry. The Institute's committee leadership is responsible for moving the industry forward by critically examining established best practices and developing new benchmarks to exceed them. Our committee leaders are also the drivers of innovation. They are involved in strategically developing new markets for steel, honing our industry's messages and steering direction for market development in well-established markets that continue to battle for market share with competing materials. We also rely on our committee leaders to bring along new talent and develop us as an organization and as an industry. Today, on behalf of the AISI Board of Directors, I am pleased to recognize 4 retiring committee chairmen for their dedication and leadership. Alan McCoy, AK Steel Corporation. Alan, are you here? Cordell Petz and Roy Platts. All right. As I read on further, it says they will not be able to join us today. This is because I got to be chairman again for another year here, all right? Not quite as prepared as I should be. We also thank their companies for supporting the work of the committees and these individuals' participation on it. Patrick McFadden, will you please come forward?
You better be here.
Patrick has served as chairman of AISI's Strategic Communications Council for the past 2 years, bringing his style, wit, and wisdom to the job. Oh, God. What don't I know about? Probably don't need to know, right, Pat? As General Manager of Public Affairs for Nucor Corporation, Pat straddles the worlds of communications and government affairs. His experience in those dual disciplines gave him particular insight into AISI's challenge of positioning the steel industry favorably in the eyes of public policymakers, national news media, and other opinion leaders. Pat is someone that I admire greatly, although sometimes he wonders about that. And he's always willing to jump in and help. He is passionate about what he does, and he brought that same commitment in his volunteer leadership roles on behalf of the Institute and our member companies. We thank Pat for his service. Pat, we have a little award for you here.
Thanks, Pat.
Want to say a few words, Pat? No, sir. No, this does not mean there's a raise in the offering, unless the AISI as a group wants to contribute to it. We're going to move on now to our Market Development Industry Leadership Award. Each year, AISI Steel Market Development Institute recognizes the achievements of individuals who have gone the extra mile to advance the competitive use of steel in the marketplace as a direct result of SMDI market development initiatives. The SMDI awards honor individuals representing the automotive, construction, and container markets and steel recycling. The Market Development Industry Leadership Award is presented to steel customers and partners who advance the competitive use of steel in their own industries and promote new steel technologies within their own companies. Dr. Roger Heimbuch, if I pronounced that right, if not, I apologize, serves as the leader of the Auto Steel Partnership for 2004 through 2010 after retiring from General Motors. In his role, he provided coordination and guidance in the technical research and development of projects of our automotive customers, Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler, together with the Automotive Applications Council, steel companies, and the U.S. Department of Energy, supporting the use of advanced high-strength steels for vehicle mass reduction and improved safety. Roger also helped establish funding from the National Science Foundation, together with the DOE and the AISI support, enabled $3 million of research at 9 universities on the development of new generation of advanced high-strength steel grades. Roger's leadership and ability to work with many industry and government leaders helped the steel industry accelerate the use of advanced high-strength steel in North American vehicles. In his prior career at General Motors, Roger was always a supporter of the steel industry and encouraged the use of high-strength steels and excuse me, for many years before he assumed his role with the Auto Steel Partnership. His reputation and success at GM contributed to his credibility and influence with the Auto Steel Partnership, and he was always comfortable in communicating with senior staff members of car companies, steel companies, and government agencies. Under his direction, projects which explored optimizing vehicle structures like front-end passenger compartment and suspensions were highly successful. He also saw success in enabling projects which answered important questions about the forming and welding of new advanced high-strength steel grades. Roger was unable to be here with us today, but David Anderson from AISI's Detroit office is here to receive the award on Roger's behalf. Roger will be presented the award at the Great Designs in Steel seminar in a couple of weeks. The inscription on the award reads, "In recognition of your leadership of the Auto Steel Partnership and your contributions to increasing the use of advanced high-strength steels in the automotive marketplace." We all give our congratulations to Roger and our thanks. Like the footwork there, David.
Okay. Thank you.
Please convey our thanks. Okay, my personal thanks.
Thank you.
All right, Thomas, you're back on.
Right, don't go away.
I'm ready to go away.
Well, we thought you were going to go away, actually. This was supposed to be the end of Dan's second term as chairman of AISI this weekend, and it didn't quite work out that way. Dan stepped into the breach, actually, over 2 years ago when we had a little bit of a leadership kerfuffle go on, and Dan re-entered the officer rotation, became chairman again. Dan's a previous recipient of the Gary Medal. And for all you other recipients out there, if I haven't told you, that thing's real. That's gold. You shouldn't be putting that thing up on the wall or letting the kids play with it. So lock that puppy up. And we were looking for an appropriate way to recognize Dan's service. So Dan is going to be the first recipient of the AISI's President's Leadership Award, and it's engraved to Dan, saying, "To Daniel R. D'Amico, in recognition of his strong leadership, dedication, and passion for keeping steel and manufacturing strong." As a CEO, you couldn't have a better chairman than Dan. You couldn't have a better advocate than Dan. He's available. He helps me. When I need guidance, he gives it to me. And Dan, I'm looking forward to the next 6 months. Thank you, Dan. This is the award. We Thought we might have to change the dates there a little bit, but we can keep the dates the same, so it's still going to be 2011. Thank you, Dan. The last word?
The last word, huh? That could be dangerous. Well, being chairman of the AISI is probably one of the easiest jobs that a CEO could have outside of his company because of the staff in this organization, how professional they are, how efficient they are. All right, you know, Tom makes the comment that, you know, oh yeah, Dan's there whenever I need the support and stuff. It's more the other way around. You know, Tom is so far ahead of me that he's pulling me through, and so while to some folks it may seem like an additional chore to have to be chairman for another through November of 2011, it's not, because of the team that he has, because of his leadership, and because of the support of the other CEOs and all of you that are participants in our board and support our organization. But I will guarantee you this, you know, the passion that we all share for this industry will be well represented in Washington and everywhere else in the community. And, you know, I can't help but take a little bit of a shot, okay? He could have given me a gold medal, and I would have gladly accepted the gold part of it. Tom calls me up a couple of months ago and says, you know, Dan, we don't normally give 2 Gary medals out to the same CEO. And did you know that thing is really gold? You should just have that thing laying around. I think it's probably somewhere around $25,000+ in that Gary medal. So I congratulate you also on giving a very lovely award in a very efficient, low-cost manner.
Thank you, Dan.